Hello race fans and welcome to race 5 of 8 of the WIRLY Miniracers Cup Series. I'm your host Jeff Fisk with co-host and race analysis Nate Durnert, and we're here at Rayford Shipping Speedway for the Dockyard 35 for what will surely be an exciting race today, Nate.
Well, it better be, Jeff. I'm ready to see some good goddamn racing today. We've been gone for way too long.
Looking to the infield now, we have our drivers getting ready to go for today's race. We have last time's winner Bill Duke, who's now driving the number 89 WWL car.
Is that even still a thing, Jeff?
It is if you believe hard enough, Nate. We also see here Kyle Evans and Ashton Cunningham, who from what I've been told have started their own company and are now sponsoring themselves with Gold Standard Racing.
They sponsored themselves. Jeff, that is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard of in my entire life.
I'm not going to openly agree with you, Nate, but I'm not going to argue with you either. Looking now to the point standings, Richard Powers still holding a 23-point lead over second place Sandra Justice as we head into qualifiers for the Dockyard 35. Our first round of qualifiers are lined up and underway. Henry Young giving Ashton Cunningham a bump right into the back of Richard Powers before heading into turn 1. Looks like here at the start it's going to be Richard Powers, Ashton Cunningham, and Henry Young as they come through the tires.
Oh, fuck, Richard, what the fuck are you doing?
Richard Powers dropping back to third.
Fuck!
They come around to turn 3. Henry Young in the lead, followed by Ashton Cunningham and Richard Powers. Going through turn 3, it's Red Electric's Ryan Steele in 4th, Frank Clemens in 5th.
Oh, God,
Richard Powers taking a big hit on the barrel coming on the front stretch. He will drop back all the way to 7th.
Richard just completely fucked this qualifier, Jeff.
As they come to the tires again, Henry Young going to take a hard hit on those tires. Ashton Cunningham is on the inside going into turn 3. Ashton Cunningham going to start to pull ahead with Henry Young in 2nd, Ryan Steele in 3rd. As they come to the barrel again, Ashton Cunningham takes a big hit. Henry Young looks to the inside, but it will not be enough. Ashton Cunningham will be taking the pole position for the Dockyard 35. Richard Powers, the points leader, all the way back in row 7 after a very rough qualifier.
I mean, that was hard to watch, Jeff. That was just 2 laps, man. I don't know how this race is going to go for Richard.
It'll certainly be interesting to see how this race develops, especially with Sandra Justice taking an early lead in the second round of qualifiers. There's Tyler Marks in 2nd. Kyle Evans looking to the inside to take 3rd. He's not looking to the inside of Tyler Marks to take 2nd as they come out of turn 4 onto the front stretch. Kyle Evans will take a big hit on the barrel. Tyler Marks now battling for 2nd. Sandra Justice still in the lead coming around to turn 2. On the backstretch now, big scramble for positions here as Will Duke and Molly West start pulling ahead. Sandra Justice still holding on to the lead. Will Duke starting to pull ahead into 2nd. Tyler Marks and Kyle Evans still trying to gain some ground here as they come to the barrel. Sandra Justice takes a big hit and Will Duke just barely pulls ahead at the end. And he will take the first row outside for the Dockyard 35. Sandra Justice in the 2nd row. 2 big points competitors, Ashton Cunningham and Sandra Justice, both starting in the top 5, with points leader Richard Powers all the way back in 13th around Kyle Evans and Dante Glum.
Richard's gonna have a long way to go if he wants to keep that points lead, Jeff.
Right you are, Nate, but he does have 35 laps to do it. As the Dockyard 35 kicks off, Ashton Cunningham, Will Duke, and Henry Young scrambling for those early positions, with Ryan Steele and Molly West right behind. Big scramble for positions here at the tires, a lot of movement around in the places. Henry Young now taking the lead, followed by Demi McKnight, Tyler Marks, Will Duke, and now that's Frank Clemens, the other member of Lightning and Thunder, moving up to 5th.
Now, Jeff, at the start of the season, we saw a little bit of the home track curse, but I think if Lightning and Thunder gets a 1-2 finish here, we can call that curse officially fucking dead, right?
I would certainly say so, Nate, and it would be a big play for Lightning and Thunder, who may be going for a 1-2 finish here already on lap 2. Henry Young and Frank Clemens have pulled out to an early lead, with the rest of the pack following behind. We see Demi McKnight, Tyler Marks, and Molly West of Grazed Green. That's a name we don't see up here too often. And actually in the back we can see our points competitors, Richard Powers and Sandra Justice, in 14th and 15th respectively. A very big drop back, especially since Sandra Justice started in the 2nd row and she is now trailing behind in last.
Well, you know how a lot of these races can go, Jeff. I mean, you obviously want to be in the front the whole race, and I would much prefer that for Richard, but there's a lot of racing left to go, and there's a lot of room for him to catch up here.
Right you are, Nate. With the battling for positions going on up front, there's certainly be opportunities to make up some of that ground. As we look now to the front again, they're still scrambling for positions on the backstretch. Molly West moving up to third, Darrell Lee of Mountain Power battling for position with Tyler Marks, with the Violet Reapers Dante Glum and Demi McKnight close behind.
There's a lot of underdog names trying to make plays early on this race, Jeff.
And that shouldn't come as a surprise, Nate. Now that we're in the second half of the season, a lot of the drivers that have been trailing behind early on have to start putting up points if they want a shot at the championship. And it looks like one of those plays is developing here. Henry Young building a very respectable lead for himself early on, where his teammate Frank Clemens, who's currently third in the points, has that room to hang back and try and hold off the pack. We can see Red Electric and the Violet Reapers trying to push their way up the pack to keep up with Lightning and Thunder. Red Electric in particular has been having a very rough season after a great start at Ravenholm. A strong finish here could mean a big thing for the team. There's Tyler Marks, who's dropped back far after a rough hit on the tires. Ryan Steele is now alone in third, with Ashton Cunningham coming up in fourth.
There's been a lot of scrambling for positions here, Jeff, and I think the points leaders are starting to slowly creep their way back up.
Certainly seeing some of that, Nate, but Darrell Lee and Richard Powers get side by side coming out of turn one, and Richard Powers ends up in the barrel. That's going to send him back once more.
God, why the fuck did I say something? God damn it.
Certainly a setback, Nate, especially as Frank Clemens and Henry Young continue to pull away from the rest of the pack. There's Ryan Steele and Dante Glum trying desperately to catch back up to Lightning and Thunder.
Jeff, I'm starting to think this track might just be bullshit.
How you figure that one, Nate?
Well, when the only team doing good is the one that's on their home track right now, it kind of starts raising those alarm bells, you see. I kind of put that two and two together.
Well, Nate, I wouldn't count the other racers out just yet. We've seen big leads worn down before. And like you said earlier, there is a lot of racing still to go here.
Yeah, we'll see about that one, Jeff.
Right you are, Nate. Looking back now, Lightning and Thunder have swapped positions, and Frank Clemens has taken the lead with Henry Young in second.
Jesus Christ, can someone get this fucking cameraman a coffee?
Coming through turn 4 now, it's Frank Clemens in the lead, followed by Henry Young, Ryan Steele, Ashton Cunningham, Demi McKnight, Dante Glum, Tyler Marks, Sandra Justice, Bill Duke, Molly West, Darrell Lee, Will Duke, Richard Powers, and Andrew White trailing behind, with Kyle Evans and Julie Armstrong further back.
This race is turning into a fucking nightmare for Richard, Jeff. I mean, everybody else has been bouncing around all over the place, but Richard just hasn't done anything, Jeff. He just hasn't done anything.
Nate, are you crying?
No, I'm not crying. I'm having eye sweats.
While you're having your eye sweats, Nate, it looks like Mountain Power is trying to work together and giving Richard Powers a few more positions as he surges ahead of Molly West and Sandra Justice. He's looking to the outside of Bill Duke now. Let's see if these new positions can stick.
Oh shit, come on Richard, you got this, buddy, you can do it.
It appears they will not, but Richard Powers and Darrell Lee are still side by side, working together to try and help each other navigate this track.
Well, I sure hope they can put something together, Jeff, because this season's gonna be in shambles. You gotta be fucking kidding.
Nate, what are you...
Get off the track, you dumb bitch!
Nate, please sit down. People are staring at you.
Well, I'm sorry, Jeff, but it fucking pisses me off when I see that shit. You know what? Where the fuck's my tablet? I'll fucking race analyze this shit. You ready? It fucking pisses me off when these slow as shit drivers start throwing stupid blocks and fucking up a faster driver's run. That is some bullshit.
Nate, it looks like she was just rammed into the wall and Richard was caught up in it.
No, fuck you and fuck her for fucking up Richard's run. That's my fucking race analyst.
Right, well, while we've been focused on that, Henry Young has taken the lead once again, followed by Ashton Cunningham. Frank Clemens is now in third. Sandra Justice in fourth, but she takes a big hit on the barrels. She's going to drop back. That'll be Dante Glum in fourth. Sandra Justice manages to push back up to fifth, with Molly West, Ryan Steele, Tyler Marks, and Richard Powers not far behind. Looking back to the front, Henry Young has given himself a very commanding lead. Lightning and Thunder having absolutely dominated this race, with Ashton Cunningham The only one in between them and a 1-2 finish so far. Coming around turn 2 of lap 15, it's going to be Frank Clemens in 3rd. Molly West now challenging him in 4th. No, she's not. Sorry? Now, I know Molly West is not challenging the top 3. Nate, you're not even looking at the track right now.
I don't need to look at the track, Jeff. I'm the race analyst, and I can analyze this shit, and I know she is not challenging the top 3 right now.
Well, we'll see as they come through turn 1. Molly West will actually move up to 3rd now behind Frank Clemens.
No, fuck you!
As they come out of turn 2, it looks like she's having trouble with the tires, and she will drop back, but for that brief moment, she was in the top 3, Nate.
That's just unfucking thinkable, Jeff. I mean, she hadn't done shit all season, and now all of a sudden she's gonna start whooping our championship drivers.
There is a reason she's here, Nate, along with the rest of our drivers, but regardless, she has now dropped back to 5th, behind Ashton Cunningham, Frank Clemens in 3rd, and Sandra Justice in 2nd. Sandra Justice, who has climbed her way all the way back up to the front, with just about 10 laps ago, she was trailing all the way in dead last in this race. Which, Nate, that does give some hope to Richard Powers, who's currently 11th, but sticking with the main body of this race, just behind Andrew White.
Are we gonna talk about that, Jeff?
What's that, Nate?
The last names, Jeff.
Oh.
And you know me, Jeff. You know, I don't like to make presumptions about people or jump to conclusions. But when you throw in Molly West in there, too, I mean, it seems like a bit much.
Well, Nate, maybe we can get their perspective on this. Let's go to the Grays Green Cab Audio and see what they have to say.
I think they're talking about the names.
Well, you know, Molly, the mainstream media is always trying to put stuff on the Wests and the Whites, you know. It's like I always say, the... Okay, we're going to turn that off now, and I think we've learned a lot about our racers today, Nate.
No, can we talk about that, Jeff?
I wish we could, Nate, but we're missing out on a lot of this race.
No. Put his radio back on. He needs to explain himself.
And that's just scratching the
Christ,
surface.
Jeff,
I
he's
haven't
still
even
going.
talked
Turn
about
it off,
the...
Nate.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
I feel like I need to reevaluate some of my own biases and beliefs, Jeff.
Well, it's very mature of you, Nate, but for now, I'd like to go back to talking about racing.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about anybody else right now.
Well, you're somebody I know you like to talk about. Richard Powers and his teammate Darrell Lee is still clinging on to this pack, trying to push their way up the field. They're right behind Demi McKnight as they come to the tires. Both of them are going to make a run. Darrell Lee goes too high, and Richard Powers is blocked by Molly West once again.
Now, you know what, Jeff? West and White get all the fucking shit they deserve if they're going to pull shit like that.
Nate, I think people would call you based if we weren't talking about race car drivers.
Talking about who?
Never mind, it's lap 22, and we'll take one last look at the midfield before we go back up front. Looks like we're going to have some movement here. Ashton Cunningham challenges Frank Clemens. He throws Frank Clemens into the tires. Ashton Cunningham will move up to 3rd. Sandra Justice now trying to make a run on Henry Young and the lead. This is the first big challenge we've seen all race.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I know you're talking about people trying to win races, but I just saw something amazing back here, and I feel like we need to run it back.
All right, Nate, go ahead.
Alright, so back here, Jeff, Molly tries to block both members of Mountain Power because she's absolutely doing this shit on purpose. She misses Darrell and manages to block Richard again, but then Darrell comes up from the inside and manages to block Molly just enough so Richard can get inside and make the pass. And it made my fucking dick hard, Jeff.
Alright, well, that was mostly some very productive race analysis, Nate. Thank you for that.
Fuck yes. Fuck you, Molly.
Right, well, looking back to the race now, Molly West is challenging Richard Powers again, going into turn 1. Richard Powers gets sent into the barrel. Dante Glum starts pushing around Molly West through turn 2. She will go into the tires on the backstretch, and Richard Powers will rocket past Molly West and Bill Duke and reunite with his teammate Darrell Lee as they head into turn 3.
Attaboy, Richard, that's how you get it done!
11 laps to go here at the Dockyard 35. Henry Young still in the lead with Sandra Justice trying to keep it close. Ashton Cunningham in 3rd, Frank Clemens in 4th, and that is Tyler Marks and Ryan Steele in 5th and 6th. Andrew White in 7th, Dante Glum in 8th, that's Darrell Lee and Richard Powers in 9th and 10th. Then it's Will Duke, Molly West, Demi McKnight's going to make the pass on Molly West. Then it's Julie Armstrong, and all the way back, somewhere back there, it is Will Duke and Kyle Evans.
Christ, they're still in this race?
Yes, Nate, those two haven't pulled off yet, and there's Will Duke coming down the front stretch now. which means that there is likely a very annoyed Kyle Evans even further back. Not really flexing the gold standard in this one, is he? No, that seems to be more on Ashton Cunningham, who's still in third. That top four is very spread out, so his position is fairly safe. But here comes Dante Glum trying to make a run on Red Electric and sneaking into the top five. Red Electric keeping him on the inside. Dante Glum is forced into the barrel. Excellent teamwork there out of Tyler Marks and Ryan Steele, who defend their position for the time being. It looks like they're starting to get separated on lap 27. Tyler Marks is having some trouble there in the tires. Dante Glum makes a run now with the teammates separated. He's side by side with Ryan Steele going on the inside of turn 3. They're side by side going into turn 4. Dante Glum looks to the inside. He'll pull ahead on the exit, but he's going too low. He's going to hit the barrel, and Ryan Steele will pull ahead and has successfully defended his top 5 position as we head into lap 28. Keeping an eye on this battle here, Ryan Steele having some troubles in the tires on the backstretch. Dante Glum will get through clean. He's now inside and ahead of Ryan Steele going into turn 3. We just saw there Bill Duke force his way past Richard Powers on the backstretch. They head down turn 4. Bill Duke is ahead, but he's going to go low and hit the barrel. Yeah, all right, Richard, there you go. He's still got some fire left in him, Jeff. Zooming out to get a whole view of the field, you can see just how distant the race leaders have become. We just missed it there, but Ryan Steele has retaken 5th from Dante Glum. He's trying to put some distance between himself and 6th. And after that, it's Tyler Marks in 7th, Richard Powers in 8th, Bill Duke in 9th, Daryl Lee closing out the top 10, Andrew White in 11th, and Molly West in 12th. Just 6 laps to go here at the Dockyard 35. Zooming out to try to get action to the whole field here, Henry Young still in the lead, followed by Sandra Justice, Ashton Cunningham, Frank Clemens, and Ryan Steele. Tyler Marks has pushed up to 6th, reunited with his teammate. Now Andrew White and Richard Powers are both making plays around Dante Glum. They'll both make the pass. It's Andrew White in 7th, Richard Powers in 8th. Richard Powers is trying to challenge that position, but can't quite do it here on lap 31. Richard's still cooking, Jeff. I can see it. There's still a few laps left in this race, and he's not going down without a fight. Oh, fuck, he's going down without a fight. We're seeing a big battle between the electric cars for that last top 5 spot. It looks like Andrew White's going to pull ahead of Ryan Steele. Then Dante Glum and Tyler Marks are close behind. Coming down the front stretch, Andrew White is in the top 5, but those other electric cars are close behind. They have not given up this fight yet, and they're going to stick right with Andrew White through turn 1. Looking back to the front again, it looks like Sandra Justice is making one last push for the lead against Henry Young as they head through turn 3. It's still Henry Young in the lead, but Sandra Justice is keeping that race close. Henry Young is going to take a light hit on the barrel. It's not quite enough, but that distance is closing in. Through turn 1, they both get through clean. Sandra Justice takes a little bit of a bump, but she's sticking with him. Now to the tires on the backstretch. Sandra Justice gets it a lot worse. Henry Young starts to pull away. And that might be it, Nate, to close out a dominant performance from Lightning and Thunder. Henry Young is starting to pull away once again with just over 2 laps to go. It's now lap 34. We'll start looking back at the rest of the racers. Ashton Cunningham is in 3rd. Frank Clemens in 4th. Tyler Marks has actually taken that top 5 position on lap 34. He just has to hang on to it for a little while longer. It doesn't look like Andrew White is done yet. He's going to slam Tyler Marks into the inside tires, and he's going to pull away with that 5th place position. Wow.
Those fuckers on Gray's Green are a little two-faced, Jeff. I mean, they are a dirty duo.
We've definitely seen some aggressive driving out of Grazed Green this race, possibly more than we've seen out of other teams in previous races, but regardless, the white flag is out here at Rayford Shipping. Andrew White tries to make a run on Frank Clemens, but can't quite pull it off. But he still gets a top 5 position out of the day. Coming down the front stretch now with a huge lead, it is Henry Young of Lightning and Thunder. There's Sandra Justice, Ashton Cunningham, Frank Clemens, Andrew White in the top 5. There's Ryan Steele, Dante Glum, Tyler Marks, Richard Powers, Molly West, Julie Armstrong, Daryl Lee, Bill Duke, Demi McKnight, Will Duke, and a very distant Kyle Evans to close out this race.
This was a wild one, Jeff. I mean, even with how spread out they got, it was wild up to the end.
Right you are, Nate, but for all the chaos, Henry Young has dominated this race, and he is the winner of the Dockyard 35. Looking to the point standings now, we have a new points leader. For all his efforts this race, Richard Powers could not cling on to the points lead, Nate.
He's just gonna have to put something together, Jeff. I don't know. I feel like I need to lay down after this race.
I think I'm with you on that one, Nate, and that's all we have for today. Thank you for watching Whirly Mini Racers, and we hope to see you all next time.